We're joined now by Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Adeboro, Adamson. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, you've listened to the background to the what some have described as a debacle in Osun State. Now, first off, what do you make of the Osun High Court in Ilesha ordering, the OSSIEC to conduct elections for the 30 local government areas against the backdrop of the Attorney General of the Federation, who says if the government goes ahead with the election, it will be breaching the Constitution?
The word of the Honorable Attorney General is a word of advice.
Right.
But the judgment of a court of law is binding on all parties, whether given wrongly or rightly. That judgment or ruling or whatever you call it must be obeyed first. So the High Court of Osun State, Ilesha Division, has given an order today that OSSIEC should go ahead and conduct the election tomorrow. That order stands until set aside, either by its court itself or Court of Appeal. So as we are today, that election must go on tomorrow by the order of the High Court of Osun State.
So what do you say to those who say that this is in contempt of the existing appellate court decision? Because as it is now, we have the Federal High Court ruling, then we have 2 appellate court judgments or decisions, and now a state high court judgment allowing the elections to proceed. Litany of orders and judgments from the court. Should this election go ahead,
Very interesting.
will the government and that court not be in contempt of what exists?
Very, very interesting. Now, you remember that there are 2 federal high court judgments, one between PDP and others, the APM against APP. Now, in PDP against others, you remember that APC joined at the appellate level when they appeal as an interested party. And the judgment at the Federal High Court is that, look, the election of the local government in Osun State in 2022 was in contravention of the Electoral Act 2022 and the 1999 Constitution. Be that as it may, the court ordered that all the local government chairmen...
Which court in particular now?
Federal Court. Federal Court.
Okay.
Ordered that all the people elected under the provisions of OSSIEC Act, or law rather, will vacate or should vacate immediately. That was the order of the Federal Court. Now, APC joined, and at the end of the day, this year, they have the appeal struck out, not even dismissed. The appeal was struck out on the ground that that action at the Federal Court was premature. It was speculative. At the time of institutional action, no cause of action has been arisen. So to that extent, now what happened? Having declared the judgment to be, I will not say nullity, but here there was no judgment at all of the Federal Court. Now, what happened? What's the effect? What's the consequence of that? The consequence is simple. You go back to status quo ante.
Which would be?
Which would be that those local government chairmen and councillors will go back to their positions.
So you're on the same page with the...
They were not sacked.
You're on the same page with the Attorney General, who says their tenure expires October of 2025.
But you flip to the other side.
Right. The other court
you flip to the other side. Now, agree here that, as it were, those local governments were not affected, and their time will not last until October 2025. So they are assumed to be on seats. Now, when we now go to APM against APP, the appeal here was struck out for want of diligent prosecution. The implication is this: that judgment stands. The judgment of Federal High Court that was appealed stands. But what is the effect of this one again? If you look at the parties here, APC was not there. PDP was not there. Now, in the terms of this election, these are necessary parties. I agree that the law says that the not joinder or joinder of a necessary party will not operate or vitiate the procedure of that court. But the Supreme Court has given a decision as an exception to that general rule that, look, when a necessary party that is critical or that judgment will affect is not joined, then that judgment becomes a nullity.
So now,
No, I've not finished.
because, look,
I've not finished.
it's even getting more confusing.
It's
And
not
one
it's
wonders
not
whether
confusing.
the judiciary and the judicial, sector as a whole is not complicit in this Osun debacle. Is that what we're dealing with here?
I will get
You'll
there.
get there, please.
But let it be clear to all of us here.
Right.
Now, if the necessary parties are not joined, what is the implication?
Yes.
Now, that judgment will operate in the realm. Judgment in the realm means judgment that binds all parties, including those who are not there. So even though you are not party to it, you'll be joined. But who will declare the judgment a nullity? Or who will declare the judgment a nullity because critical parties or those who will be affected were not joined? It's only the court of law. So you can't take law into your hand. So that is the confusion on ground. So one has said, oh, I was party to this one. Said, oh, there was no consequential order in APC against PDP to say, oh, return back to the office. But by operation of law, if the judgment has been set aside, then the status quo ante will be maintained. That's why I said those people can go back and obtain their position. But in the other case, they were not parties. So, as it were, that judgment stands until it is set aside. So, and when you are interpreting the law, it means that this judgment operates in the realm. In other words, all parties and non-parties are bound by it. Now, let's come back to your question.
Yes.
Whether the court is complicit.
Yeah.
To me, I would say no. But rather you blame the governors. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. In the quest to corner the local governments and to have a control over the local government, the governors are desperate to ensure, if you look at the trend, when you hold an election in a state, the ruling party will sweep the entire local government.
Yeah.
Are you now saying other parties are not popular? I'll give an example. Let's go to Adeboro State. In Adeboro, they have about three House of Assembly members, YPP, and they have about 1 or 2 House of Rep members. At a point, they had a senator before it decamped. Now you hold the election in that kind of a state, and YPP cannot even get one local government. What are we talking about?
So
here?
you're saying the desperation of the political actors, perhaps is being fueled by this litigation, is what some people are raising concerns about. But let me ask you, because we talked about consequential order. And there seems to be multiple interpretations to all of these judgments and decisions on ground. In cases like this, where the law is unclear or open to multiple interpretation, should the Supreme Court not be the next line of action in this case? But we have not seen any of the parties in Osun State approaching the Supreme Court for clarification of what's on ground. Why do you think they are avoiding the Supreme Court?
It's due to the reason best known to them.
But should they have approached the Supreme Court at this point, having all of this litany of orders?
No. You see, for the case of APC against PDP, the court struck out the matter on the ground that it was premature, like I've said. Now, if PDP had been aggrieved, PDP ought to have gone to the Supreme Court to say, oh, no, we disagree with that position. But perhaps it was clear to them. They've read the provision of the Constitution, the laws affected, and the judgment of the court. They were satisfied. So if you are satisfied, why do you go to appeal? No. Now for the other one, what are you going to appeal? When they say you did not prosecute your appeal timelessly. So to that extent, we strike it out. That's not to appeal. So Supreme Court has not been availed the opportunity to pronounce on what is transpiring. But I assure you now here, that what if the election goes on tomorrow? It will bat litigation, serious one. It will surely get to the Supreme Court. So by that, oh no, it cannot even get to the Supreme Court because it's a local government election. Court of Appeal is last destination. So, but if it's a pre-election matter, it will get to the Supreme Court. Once it's where now, whatever action that is taken tomorrow, it cannot be guaranteed.
Well, I want to follow up on that very quickly because the basis of all of this is it not a pre-election matter? Because you recall that exactly because the basis of the matter here is that OSSIEC did not give enough notice for that election to hold in the first place in 2022, and that's what the debate is on the part of the PDP. And while that case was in court, the OSSIEC Act or the law was amended, as you recall, to then give 360 days notice for an election. But the election that was conducted in 2022, as we are told, was only given 60 days notice for election.
Yes,
so
yes.
it is a pre-election matter.
No, that has been decided. That has been decided.
But that's what the PDP is holding on to.
And that's what we are saying. That those two cases had proceeded to Court of Appeal and are terminated in Court of Appeal.
Been dealt
and nobody
with.
has further proceeded to Court of Appeal.
Okay, so now back to this issue now. The Attorney General says the tenure of the local government, the reinstated council chairman, remains valid until October 25.
Yes.
That's
the position.
That's the position.
It's correct.
If this election holds tomorrow, what does that portend?
To me, it depends on what the court will say. Again. Now, the case that came up today, where OSSIEC was ordered by the High Court to proceed with the election, would definitely be challenged. And that is a pre-election matter.
And you still think, you insist that the judiciary is not complicit in all of this?
How do you castigate the judiciary
Because
here?
at the end of the day,
You brought a case before the court based on the facts. The court cannot go outside the fact and evidence play before
but
pronounce.
the court is supposed to resolve these issues and not further complicate.
They have resolved the issues. The issue of the APC and PDP, the matter was conclusive. They said, look, as at the time you brought this action, even the amended the election had not been contemplated. You were in court where your matter was not even mature, to be
So
heard.
where do you see the solution here? Because as it stands, before tomorrow's election, the APC chairmen are already occupying most of the secretariats.
Yes.
The PDP is going ahead with an election. The PDP government, which is in power in Osun State, is going ahead with this election. The APC is boycotting. So we do have a situation where somebody is already occupying the office, but there's an election being conducted to occupy that same office. And like you have said, we most likely will see a sweeping of those results, and they will then both claim legitimacy of that office. Where is the solution? Where does the solution lie?
The solution still lies in the court.
Which of the courts do we then begin this matter?
They have to start. They know that. Now, the one that is in High Court today, I can assure you that one will generate a lot of controversy. That decision of the court today will be challenged. So that can take them to the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court will have opportunity. But if it is the election for tomorrow, that one is paper election. It cannot proceed more than where the Constitution has provided that it go to.
Right.
But for this one, for the High Court that has given decision today, that will definitely be challenged. And that will give solution to the entire problem.
Never ending. Political and legal log jam.
It is.
At the moment.
All right, thank you so much. Adeboro Adamson is Senior Advocate of Nigeria, joining us tonight on Newsnight.